Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Transit Report on Monday, May 20th, 2024. Wow, we have had a tremendous shift of energy as of this morning. For the last 5 days, the transit field has brought us a reflector chart. And just as of this morning, we've had 3 channels defined and 5 centers. So let's take a look at what's happening. If we look at the astrological wheel, we can see that the sun moved into Gemini this morning around 6 a.m. my time. And that actually takes place in gate 8, line 6 in the last 7 minutes and 30 seconds of the degree. And then right after that moves into gate 20. And so with the sun moving into gate 20, line 1, putting the earth in its polarity in gate 34, line 1, that's what is bringing us the channel of a charisma, a design where thoughts must become deeds. We also have had Mars still in Aries in his home sign move into gate 51. And so with Neptune still in gate 25, where she's been for over a month now, I think about 6 weeks, that's bringing us the channel of initiation. And then with the moon moving into gate 50 for only a handful of hours today, and Mercury finishing up his movement through gate 27, that's also bringing us the channel of preservation, a design of custodianship. So here we go. Let's break this down. A lot of energy, right? We get all of a sudden 2 motors defined in the body graph. All the planets that have been in Taurus, we can see we've got Mercury, Uranus, Venus, and Jupiter. Also want to remind that just on Saturday, this past Saturday is when we had Uranus conjunct Venus in gate 23, and the sun was conjunct Jupiter in gate 8. So that was a big weekend for gate 23 and gate 8 to have these really big conjunctions. Talked about that in last week's transit report, but we're still coming off that. We're really feeling not only from spring in the northern hemisphere, nature's really come alive where I live. The grass is turning green, the flowers are blooming, the birds are moving. It's like the energy outside for me certainly feels like the energy of these transits here. And so we're certainly feeling some movement forward, and we're getting tremendous energy this week. We are going to have our full moon in Sagittarius on Thursday on the 23rd. So the moon is just a couple of days before her zenith of illumination in the sky. So we've been having 2 weeks of building lunar energy, emotional energy that drives us. So with her moving towards that full moon, and all of these other personal planets and outer planets that have been conjuncting each other, we're feeling some movement here, no doubt about it. A couple of highlights to mention about this channel of initiation. There's something very important I want to talk about here. We have had the channel of initiation activated so consistently for the last couple months. It's been extraordinary. I don't have a software that can quickly tell me when this has ever happened before, but I don't know when. It has to be, it's very rare to have all of the planets so compacted as they have been actually since January, because we had a 4-planet new moon in Aquarius, first new moon of the year. We had a 4-planet new moon in Pisces. Then we had 5 planets in Aries for the new moon total solar eclipse. And then this current new moon that we're working on that was in Taurus, we had 5 planets there as well. So that's bringing several elements, not only the melding of all these planetary energies and the sign that they're in, but it also has meant that this channel of initiation, because gate 25 and gate 51 are both in Aries, we've been having this channel so consistently for a long time. However, that's about to end for a while, because with Mars in gate 51, once Mars moves out of gate 51, we're not going to see this channel very much. The moon will come back around in a month. Neptune, of course, being such a slow moving planet, and she's slowing down. She's preparing to go retrograde. So she's moving very slowly. She is going to go retrograde back into gate 36 for a while before she'll come back to gate 25. And she'll be in gate 25 for next year, for 2025. So we're going to obviously continue to see the channel of initiation, but never with such a long time period and so many planets. In this past month and a half, we've had 5 planets, and we also had the North Node in gate 51. So half of the wheel has been going through, or half of the planets, including the North Node, have been going through the channel of initiation. And so that, of course, has been a large theme of my transit reports for quite a while now. And I just want to touch on that because after Mars leaves gate 51, it's just not going to be, we're not going to see it like that. And so I think that channel has really been putting us under pressure. We have continued to have overwhelming number of individual gates activated as a result of the planets being so close together for these many months in the portion of the wheel where we do have so many individual gates. We have just been under incredible stimulation concerning individual circuitry in our bodies. And whether or not you have the gates that have been getting repeatedly activated, we can still say that all of our individual gates, wherever you have them in your chart, and the individual channels are also getting stimulated, right? Because anytime these transits go through individual gates and channels, they're stimulating the other individual parts of ourself. And so I don't know if you've experienced this in your personal life, or maybe you've seen it in your friends and family, but they've been really deep, triggering times. I mean, that's kind of an extreme word. It may not have been a full-blown trigger from a unhealed wound in the past, but it may have been. I certainly have had that experience. And I've also seen that in others that I've shared this information with. It's been a deeply stimulating, possibly triggering time, and it's also been incredibly supportive for personal healing. When we look back to that new moon we had in Aries, the previous lunar cycle, which we had a total solar eclipse on April 8th, that was in, the eclipse was in gate 51, line 5, and it was exactly conjunct Chiron to the minute of the degree at the moment of the eclipse. So it was quite an extraordinary eclipse for many reasons. But again, it was really bringing into focus this opportunity to experience an initiation into our higher self. And I really believe that Chiron, being the headline news of that last lunar cycle because of its conjunction to the eclipse, was sharing that it takes a lot of healing to experience the ultimate higher sense of our G center, right? We all carry some degree of wounding or conditioning from the past that requires our healing to integrate and alchemize those limitations that they've caused in us, these maladaptive strategies that we formed previous in life, that we now have this opportunity to review, reflect, to heal and forgive, and to move forward into our higher sense of personal truth and expression. And so that story, it still continues, but it is going to be passing. But I think one thing I'll mention again later in the week, for this week, once that Mars reaches 51, line 5, that's going to be the exact line that last total solar eclipse new moon happened. And so again, I'm sharing this to help us bring into the awareness that there may be further instances or triggering moments this week, because it's, again, happening in this channel of initiation. It's really affecting us at an extremely deep level. So I've been approaching this like this. Anything that I've had going on in my personal life, my romantic, work, friends, everything, anything that's really been disturbing or destabilizing or dysregulating, I've been really trying to take an extra look at that, realizing that I don't want to project onto the other person. Everyone else is doing the best they can where they are in their life, and realizing that these triggering moments of of dysregulation in my body are things that I need to work out. There's still parts of myself that are not maybe completely healed because it is a lifelong process. I mean, we all wish it could be one and done, but that doesn't tend to be the case. So there could be some residue left from the past. And I really think this is a wonderful time to use whatever modality, if this is resonating on any level, to remember to use modalities that can bring you back into your body to regulate and ground out. We still have all this Taurus energy, even though the sun's in Gemini, still a lot of Taurus energy. So again, great support to move into nature, to ground out on Mother Earth, and to really explore why are we feeling this way? And of course, with the amplified emotional energy coming from the waxing phase of the moon nearing the full moon, it can really stir these things up. So we're in a dynamic time for that, but I really think it's also a wonderful opportunity, even though it can be a little dysregulating or destabilizing. There are tremendous forces at work here driving us into this inner core of who we are. So I think there's a big story surrounding the channel of initiation this week that will continue to build on. And then we think about the channel of charisma and how much energy comes from this only primary manifesting generator channel. So to recognize that everybody on the planet is going to be carrying this channel of charisma, it's a lot of energy. And we have the sun in gate 20. We're also going to see before this week is over, Venus and Jupiter are also going to move into Gemini, and Gemini is loaded with throat gates. So there's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of talk, oftentimes maybe too much talk, but I'm really thinking about this channel of charisma and how much energy is going to be out in public. It can feel overwhelming sometimes. There's just so much happening. And I think it's so wonderful we have this tool to recognize from the chart that it's not about what's happening out there, that it's really about what's happening inside of each of us. And so hopefully that'll give us that opportunity in these moments just to pause, take a deep breath, regulate, observe, and really connect with our inner authority. I think we always know in human design that nothing is more important than our relationship with our personal authority, whether it's a center, which is for 99% of us that have inner authorities, or if it's a reflector as a process that we have to go through. But boy, is that really going to be the solid ground that we want to return to so that we can navigate these highly energetic, dynamic times. And as we go back, let me just take a look here again and direct you to the astrological wheel. We can see that with the sun having just moved into Gemini, over the next couple days, the sun will be trining Pluto, which is currently in gate 41 in retrograde. Before the week is out, he will move backwards into gate 60 again. But he currently is the only planet in retrograde, which is another reason why there does, again, indicate a lot of forward energy, because all the planets are still moving forward at this time. That dynamic's going to change tremendously over the next few weeks as a few planets do turn retrograde. So a lot of forward movement. And with Pluto going retrograde in 41, and again, about to go into 60, retrograde Pluto brings this concept of review, reflect. What is Pluto showing us during retrograde? He is the Lord of the underworld, rules Scorpio, and helps us uncover hidden truths. Pluto is associated with mining minerals and gems, and so he's always available to help us see things that are hidden within us that need to come to light. Again, it's not always a smooth path when this is happening, particularly with this initiation going on and Pluto going backwards here, saying, what do we need to review? What do we need to learn from our past? What have we not been looking at that we need to see? He does, as challenging his transits can be, he does bring truth. And I always appreciate Pluto for that. He is the truth. He really just brings it in a different way. And again, in a very deep psychological way. So this sextile here is a supportive aspect to the sun in the channel of charisma. And so through all of this activity and energy that's going on, he's saying with this sextile, there's something here that we can still see that we haven't seen before. So that's very supportive. And I just want to mention it on Monday, because not only will that sextile or trine with the sun continue to build over the next couple days until it's exact, we're also going to have Jupiter and Venus moving into this area of the wheel, and they as well, over the course of this week, will begin trining Pluto as well. And so this Pluto, trine to Pluto, big part of the week here, offering this opportunity to discover some hidden truths. And okay, let's go ahead and move into Tuesday. And as we get to Tuesday, the moon, she is going to move into, she's in Scorpio here. Now she'll spend about 2.5 days going through Scorpio. And Neptune, so Jupiter moved to 29 degrees Taurus. And so on Tuesday, Neptune will be in an exact sextile to that Jupiter, still in gate 8, and Venus still in gate 8 as well. So let's think about that. With Venus and Jupiter, they had the exact conjunction on Saturday. They are separating, but they're still in the same gate of contribution. This is the individual creative inspiration delivered to group goals. This is where we hear in the Rei Ching, sometimes these individual gates, although they're very deep and personal to us, ultimately there can be contribution and a knowing and an inspiration that can be translated to others. So with that Neptune in gate 25, sextile in gate 8, think about these two individual gates working together. Gate 25 and gate 8 in this sextile, I really think it's supportive this week. We can sort of lean on Neptune here in this gate 25 with all of this individual activity, because Neptune is the planet of creativity and limitlessness, and how that can be used right now to, spending time tuning into these higher visions and ideals about what our personal truth and inspiration looks like. Neptune is in an incredibly supportive sextile to that Venus and Jupiter in gate 8 right now. And so I think that's that could be a really healthy place for contemplation as we're working on this opportunity to be initiated into our higher self, and what is our ultimate inspirational truth and gift of inspiration look like that we're working on. What is our another term I've been thinking of this week with all of these individual gates is, it's a business term, and I have a big business background, but we always talked about unique value position. And I think as humans right now, that's what we're being asked. What is your unique value proposition? What is your incarnation? Why are we here? What is my purpose? Well, man, we are really getting stimulated right now by these transits to ask these questions and to see where our authority leads us and to trust it relentlessly right now. There will be so many distractions, particularly this week with that channel of charisma, the full moon coming in a couple days, huge amplification of emotional energy. Lot of exterior energy going out in the world. And I know for myself, I'll just be trying to use those stimulating, sometimes disturbing elements to just remember, I want to go inward right now. What am I learning about myself right now? Because there is wonderful support for that. And I'll mention it each day, but again, that sun, that trine to Pluto is growing stronger each day, and it will be exact on the Wednesday chart. And there it is. So we can see that on Wednesday, that trine from the sun to Pluto is exact, and there that Jupiter is still moving in the gate 8. Line 6 here, so just about to wrap up its movement through Taurus, but Jupiter's also moving into that trine. So here we have these all of these individual gates from the Venus Jupiter, the channel of charisma. We can also see that we're getting, because the moon will be passing through gate 43 during the middle portion of the day on Wednesday, we're also getting that channel of structuring. Now, this is a really fast moving transit with the moon, but here for my thought for Wednesday, Uranus has been in gate 23 for over a year now. Also has been a reoccurring theme in my transit reports talking about Uranus in 23. Uranus did its entire retrograde phase within gate 23, which is also for not always common, right? Because often in retrograde, if they're in the lower hex trigram, they might move into the gate prior and then come back into a gate. That's typically the norm. But what was unusual here is Uranus it came into 23, went forward to line 5 or 4, backed all the way up to line 1, and we're now at line 6 here. So Uranus will be exiting gate 23. This is the last time in all of our lifetimes that we will ever experience Uranus in 23. Won't be back for 84 years. Okay, and so that's again, I think a huge undercurrent of these times right now. The planet of revolution and change, innovation, suddenness, shocking, forward thinking, technologically oriented. I mean, it is the wild card of planets. I think it has a strong resonating frequency with individual circuitry as a planet. And here it's about to leave this gate 23. So that's why this whole time period where there's been all these individual gate stimulations, Uranus has been offering us to evolve, to move forward in this idea of assimilating our personal, unique insights, our truth and inspiration. There's been a lot of work possible in this gate 23. So I think with the moon touching on here in gate 43 and bringing us this channel of structuring for the last, with the moon the last time, that again, this is a wonderful time for contemplation. We've got 3 individual channels activated in this chart. And so we'll see what the day brings. But really just a lot of tailwinds for working on your unique value proposition. If I don't want to overuse that word, but working on your unique self. It's a powerful time to really be developing what is my message for me? What is my truth that I would like to share with the world and feel that sense of purpose and passion and our signature, whatever that is for your type. These are wonderful times to clarify that and see what the next step of the journey may look like. As we go to Thursday, this is where we're going to have our full moon in Sagittarius. It's at 7:53 Mountain Time on Thursday. And what a powerhouse of a full moon. So let's think about this, right? The moon is reaching her penultimate zenith illumination in the sky. It is always emotionally energetic time. I mean, full moons, the policemen in the hospitals always say they're very busy, right? Because everybody's amped up on this full moon energy. A lot of people have trouble sleeping during the full moon. So we all know that full moons bring a lot of lunar emotional energy. And then when we look at the body graph, we're still having the channel of initiation and channel of charisma and all the individual gates I've mentioned. We can imagine that this full moon is really amplified. And it's in Sagittarius. Now, I think that's a beautiful sign for this full moon because Sagittarius brings us this optimism. It is the sign of visionary ideals. It just wants to know more, be more. Like it's so optimistic, Jupiter is. I feel it's such an optimistic full moon, considering how triggering some of this deep individual stimulation has been. And additionally, you can see that Pluto will be exactly trine, or at least in the same degree. It's 55 minutes of a degree off, and that's of course very tight. Anytime we have a partile aspect in the same degree, that's as strong as it gets. So here we have Pluto in this really important energetic role here in a sextile to the full moon in Sagittarius in gate 34, and with Pluto in a trine to the sun in gate 20. Again, this full moon, I'm imagining it like this incredible optimistic illumination could shine light on the hidden depths of truth that Pluto is in. So, yeah, really optimistic in that sense. And if you look at Neptune at 29 degrees in that gate 25, she is in an exact sextile to both the Venus and Jupiter conjunction at the 29th degree, line 6 of gate 8. So again, just this how stimulating this is to the gate of contribution. And then, of course, right above that, I want to bring Uranus into the conversation in 23. So we have three with the sun in gate 20, we have three out of the four individual gates activated at the moment of this incredibly powerful full moon. So, yeah, a lot of opportunity here. I think again, if any of this story of these stimulating times being triggered by our past wounds and how we move forward in that, this is a wonderful time to really dig down deep into that. Now, I had mentioned that Mars earlier in gate 51. He's at line 3 at this full moon. Well, line 6 of gate 51 is where that new moon total solar eclipse happened that I was talking about. So my point about Mars here is that Mars, I think, being the last personal planet to move through this portion of Aries, where all of that incredible activity was happening for the last month, and we had all the planets in Aries, this will be the last personal planet finishing up its movement through that part of the chart that has been so stimulated so heavily. And so, on the one hand, wonderful opportunity to use that Mars energy to, although it may cause a little triggering and so forth, but to use that as fuel for healing, forgiveness, and development. And of course, he'll be moving to conjunct Chiron. So, I think this next week or two, we're finally going to move on from that story, this whole initiation into healing and authentic self-expression through the channel of initiation. It won't, we're going to pass it. And so I really love contemplating it right now. Again, reflecting on where I need to be looking within myself to heal up these final residues of maladaptive strategies that have been holding me back. Now, Pluto comes into that story because, as you'll see in the next chart, or maybe it's either the next day or the next, Pluto's going to move back into that gate 60. And so let me just go ahead and go there now. I haven't mentioned Saturn yet, I guess, before I leave this chart, but just want to mention his position in gate 22, another individual gate of emotional expression. And so he's bringing his structuring opportunity for stability through this movement of mutation that we're going through. And I think Saturn can be another wonderful contemplation of how he's restructuring this concept of our individual circuitry. And then here it is. So on Friday, the day after the full moon, you can see Pluto does back into gate 60 again. It's going to go all the way back to line 4. Pluto is not going to turn forward again until October 12th, and which will be gate 60 line 4. And then you actually won't get all the way back into gate 41 until January 30th. Well, that's still quite a ways down the road. So my point here is that with all of the planets moving forward right now, we're finally trying to wrap up the residue of our healing process that we've been jolted into. It's not like we're completely out of the forest yet, because I think Pluto going back into gate 60 one more time for these number of months is still bringing us this energy where we're still working through this development. You know, this idea of mutation, it's not necessarily an instantaneous thing. I mean, it can be, but I think the healing process of it and tracing down all of our personal fear, doubt, insecurity, Pluto's still going to be helping us work with that, tracing these roots down to their core, on how we perceive our personal limitation, what's really been holding us back, and how can we alchemize that and change that into a possible gift of expression through our maturity and experience of having gone through it. How has that brought us deeper into ourselves, into our personal authentic expression? So yeah, Pluto moving into a gate 60, big movement there on that Friday. Mercury's still in gate 24 as well here on Friday. I didn't mention Mercury yet, although bringing the planet of communication into the gate of rationalizing here. And it's in the Ajna Center, which Mercury is certainly very closely associated with, how we conceptualize and think and integrate. And Mercury is also very helpful and supportive, and not for personally, for helping us integrate our sun position, our life energy. How do we integrate that and communicate that with the world? So he's also in this mix up here of the individual circuitry. And I'll just add it. I don't, here on Friday, at least, I didn't add it up for yesterday, but on Friday, 10 out of 13 activations are individual gates. We had that full moon in gate 34. I didn't say too much about that, but we all know gate 34, right? It's the most energetically powerful gate in the body graph. So we're just coming off that movement on Friday, of course, the Earth still being there. But think about having 10. And when I get to Saturday, we have 11 of 13 activations in individual circuitry. So yeah, I think you guys are, I'm sure you're getting the picture here. It is a deeply stimulating time into this message of what is my truth and inspiration, and how do I want to express that? And so just getting huge doses of that through the week here. The moon on Friday, she is squaring Saturn in gate 22. So thinking about that, I want to mention though, we are past the full moon on Friday, so we're entering the waning phase. So we're going to start getting a very different frequency from the moon as we spend the next 2 weeks returning back to the next new moon of another upcoming emotional experience for the next lunar cycle. You know, the waning phase, as we know, is not typically the best phase for like launching maybe a brand new project. I mean, it might be if your authority directs you to, but just in general, from an archetypal frequency, the waning phase from this point forward is really about taking a look and reflecting on what happened during the waxing phase, right? What did we move forward? And in the waning phase, we're reevaluating that movement and reflecting on that and seeing what can be reorganized. Wonderful time as we move towards the next third quarter moon to be thinking about what can we let go? Where did we observe energy leaks? What is no longer serving us? And so there's great energy for that, setting new boundaries, reestablishing the agreements and relationships or business deals. We're going to have a couple of weeks here where we're working on those. There's a great support for working on those types of elements. So having said all that, though, in the waning phase, right after the full moon, the moon is going to square Saturn in gate 22 and trine Mars in gate 51. So just trying to highlight here again, this very emotional energy coming from the moon in a hard aspect to gate 22 and in a soft aspect to gate 51. And which has been, I mentioned last week, the whole time the moon was on the right side of the chart, she's having hard aspects with a whole bunch of planets and soft aspects. So we were getting a very up and down, all around, hard to decipher with all this lunar energy. There was so much emotional energy going on. But here we're just getting a distinct emotional stimulation of those two particular individual gates. While that Pluto, as you can see in Gemini, we've had Venus move into Gemini, and she is now in the gate 20 with the sun. So again, when you look at that throat center, 4 activations in the 3 individual gates, lot of talk available. a lot of communicating is possible. Maybe over talking could be too much. And again, just always following our authority is going to help us navigate those most successfully, of course. Yeah, so man, just I've never seen more than 11 activations in individual gates. I mean, I'm sure statistically it happens, but it is definitely an anomaly that we are seeing here on Friday. Okay, let's go into Saturday. The moon will move into Capricorn. She's in gate 10 right now. With the moon moving in to Capricorn, we're thinking about this energy ruled by Saturn. So Capricorn is very strategic. It brings the structure. Capricorns get things done. And so here the moon being there, this emotional energy to really organize things, to ground the strategy, how this can, and again, we're in the waning phase. So it's about how do we work with what we've been through now to consolidate, reorganize, to stabilize. I always think about tending the garden right here. You know, the flowers are blooming. We've got this energy of movement. We're getting this building Gemini energy, which is immutable air, so much activity. But we have to take care of the foundation of the garden, right? It's like making sure we've got good borders to keep the rodents out, making sure we're giving enough water. And so the moon's energy in Capricorn can be really good for that. Am I taking care through my daily structure of how I operate? Am I nourishing myself? Am I taking care of my boundaries and getting enough rest and sleep? Because with all of this individual gates being stimulated, again, it can be a little overwhelming. So I think the moon can be very supportive in Capricorn there. Mars finally gets into that 51 line 5. He's also within a few degrees of that Chiron. And so, again, part of the theme of the whole week, it's not just one day, but I really feel like Mars moving through 51, finally conjuncting Chiron very soon here, that's kind of the last part of that chapter of that total solar eclipse. We'll have all of the planets will have finally moved out of Aries. They've all been involved with that Chiron. They've all been in the channel of initiation. We're coming towards the close of that chapter, and this waning phase of the full moon, tremendous opportunity to take agency, to establish the structure and boundaries you need, to be able to stabilize within your body and find your voice of expression. So really, really supportive in that regard, I think. Yeah, here on Saturday, 11 of 13 activations are individual. We've got with the moon in Capricorn being in gate 10, you can see we have 3 out of the 4 gates in the integration field. The only thing not defined right now is gate 57. So yeah, I'm trying to think of more synonyms to come up with, you know, getting on to our deep inner core of truth and authentic inspirational expression. You know, the integration field, of course, is primarily about survival, yet it also is about self-empowerment ultimately. And with so much individual from the initiation, channel of exploration, channel of charisma, channel of awakening to higher principles, right? Channel of awakening, gate 10 to 20, and all that energy in the 51, and Saturn in 22, Uranus in 23, and Pluto in 60. I mean, the story is there, folks. It's really, I think it's very exciting, and doesn't necessarily mean easy, but tremendous opportunity as we close out this chapter of healing brought to us by that powerful eclipse last month. Mercury in gate 2 as well. I think it did that yesterday. I didn't mention it. I really think that's an important piece to that story. Again, thinking about the planet of communication. And I also like to say integration of the sun's life force energy. He is the messenger of our sun. Having Mercury in gate 2, in the gate of higher knowing, the most yin gate of all 64, the gate of receptivity, there's this communication of how valuable that gate is. This is the location of our magnetic monopole. It is where we can put our attention and our receptiveness to accept what life brings us, no matter how challenging it is. We've got Pluto speaking towards this in gate 60. The tagline of gate 60, acceptance is the first step in transcendence. And so, again, having gate 2 there with Mercury, I think it helps us integrate the overwhelming stimulation of this individual circuitry that just isn't going to let up for a little bit longer. As we go to Sunday, the sun will move into gate 16. We've got Venus in Gemini. Jupiter just moved into Gemini. We know that the Gemini is loaded with throat gates. So we're going to be having a lot of Gemini energy, just like we've done all year, right? From Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and now Gemini. We're going to end up with another big conjunction of planets here. And that's why we may be feeling this mutable air sign where people just have this, everything's moving so fast. It can just, again, be overwhelming. Things are just happening at this rapid pace. And it's so important to recognize our authority and stabilize ourselves, not get caught up in this energy, because there's going to be a lot of it. It's also, though, I mean, you got to love the conjunction forming here. They're not all going to line up exact, but I mean, they're all within 5 degrees. So we can take the sun's life force energy, Venus, the planet of love, harmony, balance. Venus is the personal planet where we see what we want in life, and you got Jupiter, the planet of expansion and often good fortune and opportunity. So three incredible, powerful planets there in that sign of Gemini with all this forward movement. But there's again, I think the reason to encourage us to pause is because of that Pluto in retrograde making the trine to all three of those planets. You know, it's these aspects, they build and they build and crescendo and then dissipate, but they're all really still closely associated with this supportive trine to Pluto now in gate 60. And so that's why I think we're getting this last opportunity to really clean our pipes, if you will, on our individual creative expression and how we may need to heal from maladaptive strategies that we're still carrying, right? That we still see ourselves getting triggered for, but really helpful with these transits to be working on that. And again, that'll continue to build, I think, as Mars here in line 6, so just about to leave gate 51. We're not going to have the channel of initiation like we've been having it. There'll be a lot more next year once Neptune finally gets into gate 25 for its full term. We'll continue to get everybody passing through there over the course of the year, but never this concentrated, never quite like we've just witnessed. Yeah, I mentioned that Jupiter, I don't know if I mentioned Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter just moved into gate 20, so it's there with Venus. The sun just left gate 20. So really getting a very heavy dose of gate 20, the gate of now, the existentialist. It really is, I think, speaking to us to say we need to be present. And with all this overwhelming energy, to remember our breath stabilizes us. It grounds us, and to be present right now. The triggering experiences that may happen out there may take us to the past. We may be yearning for the future and getting on with this whole business of life and getting out of this situation. But really, this heavy dose of gate 20 is reminding us that we need to be present now. And I think that's a big part of the message next weekend. And then we can see we get the channel of the wavelength with the sun moving into gate 16 and the south node being in gate 48. We get the channel of the wavelength, a design of talent. So we'll see what that brings. But when I think of that collective channel, I still view it from the perspective of all the individual circuitry being activated. So a lot of this stimulation to find our unique creative expression could eventually turn into something that is the channel of talent and skill. And that's something that we'll have to practice. So this new voice we may be working on, it does take time. That's why we know from that channel of structuring, we have to be able to structure our uniqueness in a way that others can understand and accept and assimilate into their life. And that's not always an easy path, right? Because individual circuitry is so mutative. It's so new and out of the box, never been seen before. It's not always readily accepted by the tribal or the collective people out there. It can take that, thinking of that channel of talent, you have to keep practicing at it and do it 10,000 times to get it absolutely smooth like marble before it is actually considered to be a true gift and talent. But I feel that energy there with the sun for that whole next week from Sunday for the week with the sun in gate 16. We're going to have the Earth's grounding energy and the gate of focus, how we can really be focused on this building, emerging, mutative, creative self-expression, and how we can evolve that into something that actually has skill and talent. And that can certainly take a lot of effort there. And yeah, I think that's all I had for my notes here. I'm going to wrap it up and love to hear from you guys. If any of this is resonating with you, or if you have other observations you've made watching these, love to hear those too. They are definitely dynamic times. I'm going to take a drink of water here and take a breath. Does anyone have anything they would like to share?
All right. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Hi, Casey. Yeah, thank
Hey.
you. Good to see you. Have an awesome day. Hope everything's going.
Yeah. Thank you. Great report.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, then. Yeah, I don't see anyone else coming forward, but thank you all for being here. Great to see you. Hope you have a lovely week, and I'll see you all on Discord. Have a great day, and bye for now.